alarm. How
Yeah.
convenient.
I don't want to do it at work because I
No?
don't like everybody in my business. And it's way better just to leave and come home
All right,
early
Mr.
because
Fritz.
I'm off tomorrow.
Mr. Fritz, we are live.
Thank you. Since we are live streaming, I'll just reiterate, it is Thursday, July 2nd, a little bit after 3. This is the City of Elyria Board of Zoning Appeals. And I called the meeting to order. I'm the chair, Joel Fritz. And the only person on our agenda today is Mr. Wash, who has agreed to hold this meeting and for us to hear his appeal via Zoom, which we are doing so here today. As such, I will ask Madam Secretary Tomsky to call the roll.
Joel Fritz,
I am present.
Timothy Goldens,
Present.
Daryl Minnick,
He is excused.
Karen Mobert,
Present.
Vivian Stefsky.
Oh, sorry, in here. I'm present.
Okay, did everybody get Madam Secretary's minutes that were, they were sent to me, so I want to make sure everybody got them. And if
Yeah.
they did, the chair will entertain a motion to approve those minutes of our May 7th, 2020 meeting.
I will move that we accept the minutes as presented on May 7th, 2020.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of May 7th, 2020. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Those minutes are approved. Before we get to our case presentation format, Mr. Wash, I just want to let you know that we have 5 board members. There are only 4 here. You have a right to continue this matter to have your case heard by all 5 members. I cannot guarantee you when that would happen, as one of our board members does not participate via Zoom. However, if you elect to go forward, you live with the results that we have here today. Would you like to continue this matter and have it heard by a full board, or do you want to go forward?
Oh, yeah, we're fine. We could
Okay.
move forward with the
All
4.
right. So here's how this is going to work. Our case presentation format. The applicant will ask Mr. Wash to explain his position to the board. After that, we'll ask the building inspector to present the city's position. If there are any proponents or opponents, if they wanted to join, they could do so and voice their positions. And then after that, we would have some questions and discussion possibly by the board members or anybody else that's attending. Seeing that there is no old business, we are going to new business, and that is case number 2020-5, Ryan Wash, 119 Caroline Street, Elyria, Ohio, 44035, requesting a variance from section 1144.10B of the Elyria Codified Ordinances maximum height. The current height of the structure measures 16 feet 6 inches, as taken from the existing grade to the finished peak of the structure. The maximum height permitted for an accessory structure use is in an RMD district is only 15 feet. Mr. Wash, would you like to explain why you would like us to grant your appeal?
Sure. I would say
I'm
that,
going to stop you right there. Just for the record, I noticed that Eric Brunick has joined, who is counsel for the city. And I just wanted to make that as a record that he has joined us. Is everybody okay with that? Really don't have
Hi,
a choice.
Eric.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm a
Sorry,
little late.
Mr.
Computer problems.
That's okay. Sorry, Mr. Wash. Go ahead and continue.
oh, that's okay. So I wanted to build a structure that would house some of my woodworking equipment, and with the, I guess, the overall size of the lot, I ended up going with a 13 wide by 24 deep. I needed a extra headroom, extra height for the building to get adequate storage. I didn't want to put a giant garage in there, couple wide, 20-foot wide. It just wouldn't work with the setup with the lot that I have, with where my house was and where the garage sat. So I ended up going a little higher. So it's a shed style roof, and I used the upper left portion, the high side of the building, as storage and as a loft. It works out really good. I wish I would have took some pictures just so you could see it, but I'm sure if you are looking at the prints, you could imagine that there's about 4 feet from an 8-foot head height up from the finished floor, that you could have adequate space to store a lot of goods. The one problem where I came into, where I passed the 15-foot threshold, it's from grade. The grade is uneven there. I could probably add about 6 more inches and get it down to about a foot, but I would still be at 16 foot, somewhere, you know, plus or minus that 16-foot mark, a few inches. But I cantilevered over because I also wanted to have a shaded structure for my porch that's back there. So I cantilevered over on the high sidewall again, about 4.5 to 5 feet. And I used that as shade for my back patio. That's how and where we are today. And that's why we're having this meeting. Because I, you know, am too high on the structure. Now I did, on that overhang, I tied in structural rated timbers. They're structural rated pine on the tie-ins, and all the roof rafters are also structural rated pine. So everything I did, I used robust materials, the right structural pins, etc., all the tie-ins. So it's all rated for uplift force, etc.
Okay. Before I go to you, Mr. Farkas, maybe I'm missing something. I don't have any drawings. I don't have any plans, and I don't have any pictures with the materials I received. Did anybody else get any of those?
No.
I actually pulled it up from the aerial view. I don't know if you, you're not going to be able to
That's
see
okay.
it. But the only way I was able to view it was from an aerial view from the auditor's site. 2 different views, from the side and forward.
Well, let's let Mr. Farkas give us his professional opinion with regard to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The plan review was completed in 2018 and approved by the former building official Ralph Cantu. The issuance was granted approval based on the drawings showing an approximate height of under 15 feet. Mathematically, it calculates in the realm of 14.6-ish. Mr. Langdon went out to make a field inspection and discovered that the height was exceeding the code limits, and then indicated that a variance was required. The information was provided to the owner, and here we are. I'll continue with my report as follows. The current site is zoned residential medium density district, the requirements of which are found in chapter 1144 of the Elyria Codified Ordinance. Specifically, section 1144-10B governs accessory heights maximum limits permitted of 15 feet. The proponent is requesting a variance to allow a 16-foot 6-inch height from existing grade. Now, I know the owner indicated that he could add existing soil up to 6 inches. Engineering department does permit you to add soil up to 6 inches without submitting some kind of grading plan or topo. So that way it doesn't disturb the water drainage pattern of the yard, creating a nuisance to the adjacent neighbors. So like you said, even with that soil, he'll still be over the max height.
Okay. Well, so it kind of looks like Mr. Wash is asking for forgiveness instead of permission. That sound right?
That sounds about right.
Okay. It doesn't appear that there are any proponents or opponents out there. I don't know if Mr. Brunig wants to chime in on this at all, if you wish.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and hello, everyone. I'm just for the record, I'm not here representing the city. I'm here representing you today. Jim Taylor is out golfing. Apparently, that's more important.
That's right. I
So-
apologize. He did give me a message with
Lucky
regard to
dog.
that.
So I'm subbing for him, and I haven't done this since the changeover from Jeff Smith to Jim. I know Jim's a little more hands-on with you guys. So the only thing I would note for the record, Mr. Chairman, is that from the standpoint of the zoning board, as far as granting variances, my advice would be to get on the record your findings with regard to the 7 factors that you should be looking at when determining whether to grant a variance, and those are listed in the application. So it's your pleasure, Mr. Chairman, how you want to proceed, but my advice again would be to get something on the record as to each of those factors and your findings
Right.
therein.
And I was going to address that because Mr. Wash left out, at least from his aspect, 1, 2, 3. He left out a few of them anyway, but so I will turn this over to questions from board members as it relates to that, if they have any. Mr. Golden, you look like you may have something. Some input.
I was going to say the same thing. I like to have Mr. Walsh answer all these questions so we can make a determination due to the fact this has been built already. I do have one question for Mr. Farkas prior to the other questions. And I could be wrong on this, Daryl, and I really cannot remember. Do we use the average grade or the grade in front of the building?
You're correct. It's actually the established grade at the street, which typically is much lower than the house because they want everything to flow towards the road. So the height in essence could be much higher than 16.6.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. And back to my original statement, I would like these questions to be answered, and I think the applicant, Mr. Chairman, could possibly go through these really quickly for us.
Sure.
Is he still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I don't have a copy of the questionnaire. I turned it into you guys. I did not take a photocopy or a copy of it. So I do not have those questions in front of me, unfortunately.
Well, for instance, the first question was whether there are special conditions or circumstances that exist which are peculiar to the land or the structure involved. And you did answer that. You said your lot is narrow, and to reduce the overall footprint, you built it up. And I'm trying to read your writing to something to be adequate, for an adequate storage room, which you did.
Correct. I remember putting that down on there. Yes, that was, yep. Again, that's where it goes, where I wanted to build higher, just to get the storage in the building because of the lot size. It was pretty narrow from the house to the western property line.
Okay. The second one was whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Can you speak on that, Mr. Wash?
Can you read that one more time?
Sure. Whether this property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance.
So if the property stood as it is, yes, I mean, the next person can go in there and, for instance, if they wanted to run a salon out of their house, they could probably use that because it's deep enough and it's got enough square footage. If somebody wanted to do a small shop in there, they could use that area.
No, I think you're missing the question. The question really is will the property, if this variance weren't granted and you had to tear this structure down, is there still a beneficial use to that property? Meaning, is there a home on the property? Do you have a garage?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, to sleep in, yes. I mean, if that's what you're wanting an answer, absolutely. I mean, this isn't the house. This is, the accessory structure that we're talking about. So, yeah,
All right. Next one. whether the variance is substantial and is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land or structures.
Yeah, I'm not understanding that one either.
I'll help you with this. I think you kind of sort of answered it when you talked about how you were building that. And I think you ended up saying you went a little bit smaller or whatever, which made it, well, almost impossible not to have that roof as high as it is. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. So that would be an overall footprint, ratio based on footprint.
Okay. And for the record, and I'll just, if anybody wants to correct me, but, and Mr. Farkas, you might recall this. I think in the past, it might have been in the past year or two, we have granted a variance with a height issue, which was about 3 feet, maybe. There was like an 18 versus 15 feet. Do you remember that case?
Historically, you guys have been consistent in regards to granting variances in excess of 15 feet. In my history of being here 20 plus years, I think the borderline for the board is anywhere in the realm of 20 and above becomes really questionable.
Right.
That's from memory.
Okay. Mr. Wash, you did answer that. Fourth question was whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. You said, I would say that the structure is a unique piece of art that increases the value of the surrounding homes. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to get out there. I usually like to do this. But please explain to me how this shed's a unique piece of art.
Well, it's got it's got a couple beams coming off that high sidewall to support that overhang. They're exposed. Lumber looks really good. I put a ribbon board around the whole building. When most buildings are, they just leave it on the one face. They just, and then the side walls and then the back end walls usually not addressed cosmetically. So I went the extra mile and made it all one. Basically, I made it one cohesive, uniformed building.
Okay.
And that was my end goal. So,
okay.
Excuse me, Joel, I have, if you can see on the screen, I have I don't know if you can see it from the camera, but that's
Sure
a side view of basically what's proposed. And I can scroll through here. Here's another
Yep.
section.
Yep.
it's pretty close to what it looks like, even the finished detail. It changed a little bit, but
There's the front
came
view.
good.
Does that
That
help
looked
at all?
like it.
All right. So it's almost a lean-to type roof, not a pitched roof.
Correct. It's like a shed style
Shed
roof.
style.
Shed style.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
shed style roof. One high sidewall, one low sidewall, and then
Got it.
Yeah.
Let me ask Ms. Tonsky, did we receive anything back from any of the adjoining property owners?
We did not.
Okay. All right. The next question, you believe that this variance is not going to adversely affect the delivery of any governmental services such as water, sewer, trash pickup. It's in the back, right? It's not impeding any of those governmental services, is it, Mr. Wash?
No, it is not. You are
Okay.
correct. It is in far back, and you should be fine.
Gotcha.
Functionality.
Then the next one is whether the property owner purchased the property with the knowledge of the zoning restrictions. How long have you owned this property?
Going on 10 years.
Okay. And is this the first time you've had to get a permit to add to the property at all?
Negative. I had a front porch permit and a fence permit also, I believe, on the property.
Did either one of those require you to get come to us for a variance, or were you within the guidelines for that porch and for that fence?
Yes, I was within zoning on those. Those were fine. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a point for the record. The zoning regulations were in effect in 10 years ago when he bought the property. His knowledge is presumed.
Right. Okay. And then the next one is, whether special conditions or circumstances exist as a result of the actions of the owner. I don't know how you answer that one, but that's one of the issues.
Needs to be answered.
Yeah, there was no special, other than it's a workshop. I mean, I'm not following that question.
Okay. And then they asked you whether your ownership, the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than the variance. You understand that question?
No, I do not. Obviated.
Basically, it's saying, is there anything else you can do so you don't come into a problem with the variance, like, cut your roof down and make it flat, that kind of stuff. Is it feasible to do anything other than to get a variance?
I mean, it's construction. I mean, there's always a way to get around it, but yeah, you would have to cut the roof down pretty significant to get a foot off of it. Absolutely.
And you could put some grade up to 6 inches, right?
I could come up 6 inches and I'd still be about 6 inches, short of the wood as the siding. Yeah.
All right. Really, the next part of this is probably more for the board, but whether the spirit or intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. And I think that will probably come to fruition with a vote here in a minute. So I don't know that that's necessarily the purview of Mr. Wash. Then whether the granting of the variance requested will confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this regulations or other land structures or buildings of the same district. I think we went through this before. There have been, we have been granted some of those in the past. And then certainly is this variance sought the minimum, which could give relief to the applicant. Anybody else chime in?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Farkas. Could you tell me what the slope or pitch of the roof is right now as it exists today?
I did not make the field inspection, but let's see what the plans say. 412.
412. And would you say if he raised this roof up another 1.5 feet higher, it's still going to remain 412?
You mean?
Because his plans, the plans that he submitted is not what he built. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. As Mr. Langdon, the building inspector that was out there, reported that the overall height has increased. I don't know where that overall height came from. Either the front wall here was increased, making it higher. That would only have to be the case, or the entire building was raised.
Can we take a break for just a second? All right, just give me a call.
I don't know. Are you guys able to see this? No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm back.
no, it's not working.
Not
Sorry.
really. If I can continue for my board members, the reason why I asked this, because of my construction inspection background, if he lowers the roof down too low, it changes everything. The pitch and slope of the roof actually becomes almost flat, and there's a whole nother structural issue that has to be looked at, everything like that. That's why I asked Mr. Farkas the question.
Okay. Anybody else?
Darryl, you answered it fine, Darryl. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have a question, Mr. Walsh. Is this building heated?
Just by a small, like a shop heater. It's not heated all the time. It's only, when I go in there.
When you go in there?
Yeah,
And
it's not
obviously-
tied. It's not tied to like the house heat system or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was built from scratch. There was not an existing garage there originally, correct?
There was an existing, but I tore it down because it was in pretty bad shape. It was falling like 4 or 5 different ways, and then the concrete was buckled on the inside. So it was beyond repair. So I had to build a new garage / shed to house everything. So
Was that a one-car garage?
correct. That's why I couldn't go. It's like I couldn't put a 2-car garage back there. I'd take up
Right.
my whole backyard. It'd be weird to get in the backyard and access it,
Okay. And from the information you're providing about the construction, Mr. Walsh, it sounds like you were the builder of this property.
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been in construction since I was about 12, 13. I've been building and taking apart things. So,
Understood.
yeah.
All right. That's all I have.
Okay, anybody else?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then the chair will entertain a motion on case number 2020-5.
I mean, I'll go out on a limb here and say, I mean, I wish you all could see the pictures of it. He mentioned it's art. I'm not really sure I'd go to that extreme on it. It's a nice looking building. It looks like a solid building. It's an unusual accessory building with all the windows in it. But it's a nice looking building. And based on that, I mean, if the overall height is not in any way disturbing a neighbor or anything, my perception of this is I would move that we would accept the accessory building as it is presented by Mr. Walsh at this point.
So the motion is to waive the height restrictions in the Elyria codified ordinance.
And accept it as a variance to his 16.6 inch height above and beyond that. Yes.
Okay, we got a motion on the table.
I'll second that.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded that we grant the variance requested in case number 2020-5, Ryan Wash, 119 Caroline Street, and grant the variance to allow the height restriction of 15 feet in the RMD district to be removed so that his structure can be the 16.6 as measured. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Well, that's interesting.
I was gonna say I apologize, Mr. Chairman, for interrupting.
Okay,
I will say aye also.
okay. So let's do it one more time. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The variance is granted. Mr. Wash, you're gonna get something in the mail in a couple of days, but you won't really have to do anything because you've already done it.
Thank you. I appreciate the exception.
Okay. Seeing that there's no other business, the chair will entertain a motion to end this session, and for our next ensuing meeting, it is 3:34. PM.
I motion to adjourn.
And I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, the ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And so far, Mary, is there anything on for next month yet?
She took off.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Oh, there she is.
Nothing else yet.
All right. Well, everybody can leave the meeting and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.